Hey there. So let's move on to our next module where we will be reading the beginning of a novel by French author Voltaire. And his novel is entitled Candide. Now, a novel is a long fictional prose narrative. And in this book, we follow the title character Candide through his adventures around the globe as he searches for his lost love, Cunegonde. Now, the whole novel consists of 30 chapters, but we are only reading chapters 1 through 8. Candide, which is the French word for candid, which means honest and open. As his name suggests, Candide is a naive young man who has been taught by his mentor, Dr. Pangloss, that this is the best of all possible worlds. So, Candide is absurdly optimistic as he travels around the globe, accidentally becoming part of some of the most heinous abuses of power. He is tried by the Inquisition in Lisbon. He later witnesses the slave trade in South America. He is robbed by pirates. He makes it back to Europe. He's robbed again. He eventually finds his lost love, Cunegonde, at the very end. Although, humorously enough, she has aged and is no longer the beautiful girl he met in chapter 1. So, writers from the 18th century, the later part of the Age of the Enlightenment, like Voltaire, celebrated the use of reason and logic. They turned their critical eye toward human society. And from this period, we have some of the most important texts about government, about politics, as well as some scathing social commentary, like we see in the work of Voltaire. Many writers from this period use satire to criticize the irrational and abusive institutions of their society. And we see Voltaire use satire, I think, even more forcefully than we saw in Moliere. In his novel Candide, Voltaire has several examples of satire. So, one good example is in chapter 5, where Candide encounters the Inquisition. Now, the Inquisition was part of what's called the Counter Reformation, which was a reaction on the part of the Catholic Church against the rising trend of Protestant sects of Christianity in Europe. So the Inquisition was like a concerted effort to weed out heretics or weed out the unbelievers. And it was a way for the Catholic Church to reassert its authority. And so, in Lisbon, Portugal, in 1755, there was a powerful earthquake that destroyed the city. Candide arrives there by boat to witness the destruction of the earthquake. The Inquisition reacts to the horrors of the recent earthquake by performing what's called an auto da fe, which is the Latin for act of faith, which is like a religious ceremony of testing one's faith in God. And it often is used to condemn non believers to death. Now, we know that there's no rational connection between a religious ceremony and an earthquake. And Voltaire is using this whole scene to highlight this irrationality and to criticize the questionable authority of the Catholic Church. There are other targets of his satire too. The story of Cunegonde tells of her rape and enslavement at the hands of a powerful banker and the Inquisitor himself. The Inquisitor, who supposedly represents the church, has enslaved Cunegonde and shares her with someone who would normally be condemned by the Inquisition, namely a Jewish man. One of the targets of the Inquisition were Jewish people of the time. And so Voltaire here is taking his criticism even a step further by showing the inquisitor to be a complete hypocrite. So I think his criticism of the church and of the hypocrisy of those in power is relentless. So I hope you enjoy this wild ride with Candide. I look forward to reading your responses on the discussion board. I'll see you there.